to RSVP.
Do it.
Should we?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to take a picture of the map where we're supposed to meet.
Henry Cowell. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come.
We're about to take a left on North Big Trees Park Road.
Okay, we just went through Felton. We're on our way to Henry Cowell State Park.
We're going to do a guided plant walk with one of the park interpreters.
We found this online.
Through the state park's website. This is us. Here we go.
Turning in.
Hi, we're here for the plant walk.
Plant walk?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that is going to be starting up at the visitor center, which is a little further ahead. You are probably going to have to park in our picnic area to your right and then walk up there. It takes less than 10 minutes.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hello, we're here for the plant walk. Plant walk. What's this about? Is this some sort of fungus?
It's the State of the State Parks podcast with Chris and Mo.
Hello, and welcome back to the State of the State Parks. I'm Mo.
Hello again. I'm Chris.
Today we take a guided interpretive walk through Henry Cowell State Park.
4,650 acres make up this wonderland of old-growth redwoods, and just a wonderful collection of hikes and adventures available.
This land was originally stewarded by the native Californians, the Sayante tribe, a subgroup of the Ohlone peoples.
Circa 1821, Mexico gained independence from Spain, and they held control until 1846.
After this, the land changed hands many times. It was at first split into 3 Mexican land grants.
This is a big episode with lots of fun facts, so let's get started. There's a big train next door to this park, and you can ride it at Roaring Camp Railroad. You'll hear it once in a while through the episode. We didn't get a chance to ride it this round, but it's definitely on the list because it goes directly through Henry Cowell State Park. All right, now let's hear that train.
This is it.
a train.
Okay, we parked about 10 minutes from the visitor center and walked the path. Right as we got out of the truck, we heard some birds. So we will start with these wonderful calls.
Okay, we just parked here at the Henry Cowell. We're hearing some fun birds, so I thought I'd turn on the Merlin. That's a red-shouldered hawk. Oh wow, I heard a wild turkey too. We made our way to the gift shop, which, fun fact, is not the visitor center. The visitor center is just a little further on down the way. That's where we found our plant walk, and that's where we met our docents.
My name is Linda, and I am your docent today, and I've been doing this for about 7 years now, as Maureen has. So I like starting people here because I like to tell you what I think is important about the Redwoods story. The slab out front, and if you haven't had a chance, please look at it when you do leave, tells a lot about the history of humankind.
The picture of this huge slab cutout of a redwood trunk can be found at the stateofthestateparks.com under the Galleries tab.
It tells you when that tree was born, when Christopher Columbus was here, when gunpowder was discovered, when Christ was born. So it talks about humanity. I think it also talks about something more important, and that's the ability of redwoods to survive, to adapt, and to still be here after millions of years. And that's the story I like to talk about. Their ability to really outlive almost all that nature has thrown at them. So the species of sequoia has been around on the planet for about 245 million years that we know of. And about somewhere between 65 and 135 million years ago, our trees showed up. So we're going to talk today a lot about this big tree right here, which is called the coastal redwood. At one time, there were over 15 species of sequoia on the planet.
Wow.
After the last ice age happened, dinosaurs went, but our trees lived. And it got down to 3 species of remaining sequoias. The trees that we have in this park are considered the tallest trees in the world. They can get upwards to close to 400 feet. They only grow natively in California. From just south of us in Big Sur, up just across the border in Oregon, about a 450-mile stretch, maybe about 50 miles inland. But they can be planted in a lot of other places because they are very adaptable trees.
The train kicked up and kind of ruined the explanation about the second of the redwood species that is still with us. These redwoods are called the giant sequoias, Sequoiadendron giganteum. These trees are known for their massive trunks. It was thought that these were the only 2 remaining redwood species. That was until 1944, when a Chinese botanist, Wang Zan, discovered a 3rd species thought to be extinct. Now back to Linda explaining the 3rd redwood species.
So, a 3rd remaining species is called the dawn redwood, or for those who like the scientific name, a metasequoia. You want to know how you're going to remember this? I never met a sequoia I didn't like. So that's our 3rd remaining tree. Now what we're going through here, I should tell you this, is called an old growth grove. And an old growth doesn't mean they're millions of years old. It means none of the trees in this little loop, just in this loop, were not harvested.
Our minds are exploding and expanding by this redwood learning. Okay, next up, Linda talks about the tragic demise of the redwoods and also how fire-resistant these trees are.
So the reason I stop people here is, first of all, I just like you to look at these because in this park, there's not a lot of places you can see what an iconic looking redwood looks like, which is super straight. They don't narrow down, right? They stay about the same width all the way up. So in the 1700s, when settlers came across and they saw this, what do you think they saw? Houses, yes. They saw houses. Because I understand, they needed to build housing. Sadly, we didn't understand how important these old growth mother trees were for the genetic information to be passed on for survival of the next species. Today we have 1.5 million acres of second growth. So that's the good news. So mostly I like to talk about how these trees have adapted fire resistance. And back there I normally talk about the bark, which you heard me telling the kids why you don't climb on these trees. This is their skin. The more we climb on it, the softer it becomes. It's supposed to look like this. And this bark can be up to a foot thick, and it can hold 34,000 pounds of water on a tree this size.
Wow.
The more we climb on it, the less water and the less resistant it is. That's number 1 fire. Number 2 is a chemical compound called tannin. This is a redwood cone that was dropped in. It had to be green to do this. So this is tannin that is in these redwood trees. And tannin is extremely important to these trees. It is one of the ways that it retards fire, and it's really important for what you just asked me. Bug resistant. So it helps to resist fungus, bacteria, and insects. This is a really hot day. In most forests, what would you be doing right now as you walk through? Exactly, swatting bugs. There's not a lot of reason for bugs to be in this park. Now, it's a really quiet park. Not a lot of mosquitoes. There's just no way that they can feed off of these trees. There are some. We have spiders for sure. So, very important. It also helps the bark to seal wounds.
Wow, these trees can really survive a fire. Here comes another way these behemoths are fire resistant.
The third resistant to fire is something that I call is their sacrifice. And that is the heart of the tree. So redwoods are extremely resistant to fire, right? Especially these big old ones. When a fire breaks through, and Maureen does a really good job of explaining it at that last tree, where maybe there was a little air gap where two trunks came together. And either lightning or ground fire from the Native Americans that used to live in our meadowland, who burned fires all the time. They burned it to keep their villages clean. They burned it to create the grasses that they needed for food and for basketry. And they burned it to keep being able to see predators. So it was dark in here 160, 170 years ago. No one's in here. We don't have these nice little trails, right? And so we had major predators. There's a really cool thing about that burl that is I love to share with you. When the fire at Big Basin happened in 2020, which is our sister park, about 20 miles from here, 95% of the redwoods were damaged. 95% of the Douglas fir were killed. 95% of those old growth redwoods that they didn't cut down because they thought maybe they'd fall down are coming back. It's really amazing is they took a picture of the trees in 2020 and you look at them and every single branch is dead, brown. In 2023, they took a picture of that same exact place and all those branches are greening up. Wow. So what they found out is that tree stored carbon for hundreds of years. It stored buds for a century, and all of that is being regenerated. So these trees are all coming back, the giant ones.
What do you mean by basal burl? What does that mean?
That's just the base. The burl is the base of it.
Well, not like basil.
No, like basil, like I had on my tomatoes last night.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh, I love it. I need to know.
We kept walking through the old growth forest loop. We walked around a few more corners and we came upon a large circle of redwoods. Maureen called us over to explain what a fairy ring is.
I'll just tell you, this is a really fun little area. A lot of people come here for different kinds of ceremonies. It's not uncommon. At this time of year, we have weddings and graduations, and people will come and have their pictures taken here because of what's going on. Where this depression is, there was a tree there at one time. It went down one way or another, but the root end of the tree was right here. And it's very, very heavy. And it takes it centuries to sink into the ground. And the weight of it is such that it pulls the ground around. It makes this little vortex here, okay? All of these trees surrounding this depression are growing off of that tree's roots. So we call this a family circle or a fairy circle. It's considered extremely good luck. And so people do come here for all kinds of special reasons. So it's really not uncommon to see a bride walking down the path to say vows here. Wow. It happens frequently.
We have a lot of woodpeckers here. We have the pileated. And we have,
how do we say that?
I say it pileated.
Okay.
I like pileated.
I've heard pileated, but that's such a weird
I guess
word.
we should know what the
I've
word
heard
means. Do we know what the word means?
Pileated?
Yeah, what does that even mean?
We're going to Google that right now. This is the second time we've talked about the pileated woodpecker. Now, according to the internet, it's pronounced
Pileated.
Webster's definition is having a crest covering the pileum. The pileum is the top of the head of a bird from the bill to the nape. The pileated woodpecker is a common, non-endangered bird, cluck, caw, caw, cawing all over America. With its captivating crimson crest, you can recognize them with white feathers under their wings. They love searching for bugs in old, dead trees. Keep an ear out for a low tap, 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 tapping. That's them. Nice to meet you, pileated woodpecker.
I firmly believe that not only are these trees family, but these out here are equal. And the reason I believe that is if you look at the bark structure, you're going to see a similarity. And what we say to look for, we call them characteristics in trees, is bark structure. So bark structure is like blue eyes, green eyes, purple eyes. It's a family trait. You're going to notice now when we walk that the bark looks very different in other places. And the one thing I like you to notice here, when people say, oh, well, how could those be? Look at how big redwoods could get if we just left them alone.
Wow.
The biggest, widest redwood we know of was 33 feet.
Oh my God.
33 feet. So that's kind of this area, really, if you think about it. And these would take 2 weeks to cut when they were cutting them. 2 weeks. So they were, motivated, right? We had 29 lumber mills in Boulder Creek, which is a little town just north of us, which is like 6 blocks long. So you can imagine.
That's
it was
crazy.
A busy place for milling wood. We had a train, we have the ocean, we had roads. Perfect place to come in.
Like and subscribe. Find us at Instagram or Facebook at State of the State Parks.
Or email us at stateofthestateparks@gmail.com.
But what I like to talk about here is the root of a redwood tree. How deep are roots on the redwood tree? Take a wild guess. I had somebody say 100 feet. Would you believe they're only 6 to 10 feet deep?
That is interesting.
6 to 10 feet deep. But they go out. So they go out, they create a diameter of about 100 feet, and in the process of doing that, they wrap themselves around all the other redwoods. So we get a lot of wind here, a lot of wind. And the trees that fall over the most are these. This is a Douglas fir. And the Douglas fir, like most trees, have what we call a taproot, just one root that goes down. And you can already see this one is losing some of its ability because it's already, the ground is sinking more the more we compact it. So these trees fall over more often with a big wind. But you can imagine if you all linked arms, I won't make you do this. School groups, I make you do this. If you all linked arms and a wind came, how stable you would be. So these trees, I've watched my redwood trees go 30 degrees in each direction.
Wow.
Scary as heck. And in the process of doing that, and this is what I think is the coolest piece of information I can share, they are sharing nutrients and resources and information. Redwoods are a communal tree. They work together in companionship. Mostly do it through a little tiny thread that comes off of fungi that's called mycelium. And mycelium is underneath every square inch of our planet. It is what keeps the world alive. What we say is that it farms the roots. It wraps around the roots, and it helps to for the communication and sending impulses of information. Hey, we're going to be attacked. Build up your defenses. But mostly what it does is it shares nutrients. So the fungi brings protein to the tree, and it takes away the sugars and uses the sugars for its own growth. So it's in companionship with the redwood and red sand.
There is a
Banana slug.
He was noticing the trail, and I go, follow the trail. Sure enough, there he is.
We love banana slugs. Banana slugs are our friends.
Thank you.
This week's Pinnacle Pick is a pick of that wonderful banana slug that we found on our hike. Find our Pinnacle Picks at thestateofthestateparks.com under the Pinnacle Picks tab.
Okay, so we were walking along the trail when we happened upon an old redwood that had fallen over. There were other organisms thriving on this old down stump. Linda then explained to us what a nursery stump was.
I'd like to share some information here that I think is extremely important. There's certain topics for me that are the most important. And one is obviously their resilience and their adaptability, their ability to mutate. The other thing is Look at this tree. So here's a stump. And look what's going on. Oh,
Yeah, tan oak.
Oh my goodness.
So there are 3 trees growing on this stump. We call these
Tan oak,
nursery
a
logs.
laurel.
And the reason we call them that is because there's so much life still inside of that little stump that it gives life to other trees, other species. Lots of things could be living on that. These kids
Also looks like some little mud wasps or something in there.
It does look like there's some mud wasps.
Or some sort of
Sort of
holes in them.
packing of
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Some
You're
sort
right.
of interesting creature.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, that's the, on the there's no, the tannin leaches out when they're dead and they're laying like that, so it wouldn't protect it from that.
That's cool.
Yeah. But that good observation.
More
You're
life.
right.
the whole thing. It's all like packed in mud.
It is.
It feels like
That's cool.
Which is a new thing because we've only had a heavy rains the last 2 years. Maybe it just came out of a drought.
So redwood trees have made some interesting adaptations. I'm going to blow your minds here for a minute. We humans are diploids. We have 2 sets of chromosomes. That's pretty sophisticated. 3 billion DNA pair. Look at how evolved we are.
She points up at the redwood right now.
Exploits. 6 sets of chromosomes. 6. 27 billion DNA pairs.
So let me get this straight. We are diploids and we have 2 sets of chromosomes. Redwoods are hexaploids with 6 sets? Mother Nature, that's cool.
We've had so much redwood information. I think it's time for a redwood dance break.
What? What?
Yeah, come on, Bo. All right.
Zooming forward to how the redwoods get water all the way up at the top.
If you look at the bottom of a redwood leaf, this is the canopy you're used to seeing, right? These big flat leaves. That's what we think redwoods look like. Well, the bottom of this leaf, believe it or not, is like a little river. It's cupped. And it has little ability to take that fog, and if I were spraying this, the fog water would drop off. It doesn't hold on, it actually drops off. And in a good fog day, it can add over 4 inches of water to the roots of a redwood tree. So it's one of the ways that they say, oh, this is how these trees can get so tall. Because how do you get water up almost 4 inches tall?
And I'm going to stand right here. So, back in the 1800s, General Fremont was an explorer. He was exploring and mapping this area. Came nightfall, he spent the night inside of the tree behind you. It has what we call a goose pin, which was created by a fire that was here 170 years ago, but the goose pin in there was large enough to be a room. So, when he was finished mapping and went home, he shared that information with a man called Mr. Welch. He came back here, saw this, was enchanted with the area, and he bought this loop that we are walking through. And this used to be called Welch's Big Tree Resort. And it was here from 1867 to 1927. And it would bring the guests in. There was a train station over there. There's trees, or I'll show you pictures of the tag tree. But this was going on. It was there was a hotel here, and the reason I'm standing here, this is the cornerstone of what was the hotel. So the hotel was here, and he got the bright idea because of this tree. He used that tree as one of the rooms in the hotel, and that was how he advertised. He said, "Come to Welch's Big Tree Resort, and you can stay in the tree room." So he had bought all this property, but this was privately owned, so he couldn't buy this, and he couldn't cut in here, and thus we have these giant trees still here. Henry Cowell is the man that actually clear-cut this valley. He was the logger baron. Okay, he died. His sons inherited this property that had been completely clear-cut. In the meantime, a tree had come down and smashed the hotel, and the resort owner decided not to rebuild because the valley had been clear-cut. It wasn't a great vacation destination. And what do you think they were doing with this wood? They were blasting the hills here, which are full of limestone. And they were baking that stone to get the lime powder, which they were shipping to San Francisco to rebuild after the earthquake and fire. These trees burn at 2,000 degrees or hotter, perfect fuel. So that's what was going on, and so that was kind of made it not a great resort area. So that's it. So then, after the tree came down and smashed it, they put the property up for sale, and the county of Santa Cruz bought just this loop that we were walking through. It was just this. It was called Santa Cruz County Park. We didn't even have the parking lot. So cars were actually driving in here and parking at the tree. In the 1950s, Henry Cowell died.
The Sons came to the city of Santa Cruz and offered up the property as long as it was named after their father, Henry Cowell.
We made that deal immediately. It gave us land mass enough to be a state park, which we are now, and we have state funds to protect the trees. The tree you can still go inside of for a little bit of time. It's healing, it's closing up. 20 years from now, you probably won't be able to. You used to be able to just walk into it. Now we're going to have to stoop down. But once you get in there, there's plenty of room.
Thanks again, Henry Cowell Redwoods State Park. What a wonderful place.
Wait a second, stop the music. Something we missed. There was a basket weaving class available on the park events calendar, so keep your eyes peeled for more fun park events.
Henry Cowell Redwood State Park has 113 campsites. 83 of those sites are trailer and RV friendly, with an RV max length up to 35 feet. There's one single bike-in only site, so that's also kind of fun and intriguing.
Before we go, a quick fun fact from the state park's website. The tallest redwood in Henry Cowell Redwood State Park is likely between 1,200 and 1,600 years old and 282 feet tall, just 28 feet shorter than the Statue of Liberty.
That's crazy. Okay, so that wraps up this episode. Thanks again to our docents, Linda and Maureen. You two just filled our knowledge cup right up.
Stay tuned for more episodes coming out just after the break. See you in 2025.
Bye.
Hello, we're here for the plant walk. What's this about? Is this some sort of fungus?
It's the State of the State Parks podcast with Chris and Mo.